The emergency session, the crystalline spires of the Galactic Council's emergency chamber hummed with desperate energy as representatives from across known space gathered in unprecedented haste. Ambassador Zephyr of the Velari delegation adjusted, his ceremonial robes, a smug expression playing across his angular features as he observed the chaos surrounding him. "Pathetic," he murmured to his aide, watching as the Corthony representative's tentacles trembled with barely contained terror. 3 months of fighting unknown hostiles, and they're already begging for scraps. The massive holographic display above the chamber showed the devastation in stark detail. 17 star systems gone dark, 43 colonies evacuated, and casualty reports climbing by the hour. The enemy remained faceless, striking without warning and leaving only silence in their wake. Chancellor Vex Tar of the Dominion Prime called the session to order, his ancient voice carrying the weight of millennia. "Fellow delegates, we face extinction. Our combined fleets have proven insufficient against this threat. Traditional strategies fail. Our most advanced AI cannot predict their movements." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled representatives. The Zephyrian delegate raised a scaled appendage. "Perhaps we should consider unconventional options." Ambassador Zephyr's laugh cut through the tension like a plasma blade. "Are you seriously suggesting we lift the human ban?" His voice dripped with derision. "Those savage primitives were exiled for good reason. Their absence has been a blessing no more unpredictable variables, disrupting our careful diplomatic balance." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Some delegates nodded agreement, while others looked uncertain. The human ban had been unanimously approved 47 years ago, after humanity's rapid technological advancement and aggressive expansion had threatened the established order. "The humans were dangerous," continued Zephyr, standing to address the chamber. "Emotionally unstable, militarily unpredictable, and far too adaptable for our comfort. We made the right choice isolating their little blue world. Whatever threat we face now, we can handle it ourselves." Chancellor Vextar's expression remained neutral, but his aide whispered urgently in his ear, "Sir, there's an unauthorized transmission attempting to breach our security protocols." "Block it," Vextar commanded, but the aide's expression grew more concerned. "I can't, sir. The encryption is unlike anything we've seen." "It's already begun." Uploading to the main display, the chamber's lights dimmed as the holographic projectors activated without authorization. Static filled the air, and every delegate turned toward the massive screen above them. Ambassador Zephyr's confident smirk faltered as he realized something beyond their control was about to unfold. "What is this?" he demanded, but his voice was already being drowned out by the growing hum of the unauthorized broadcast beginning to play. The forbidden footage, the static cleared, revealing grainy security footage time-stamped 3 days ago. The image showed the outer perimeter of Research Station Omega-7, one of the forward outposts that had gone silent during the first wave of attacks. Ambassador Zephyr crossed his arms, maintaining his dismissive posture despite the unauthorized nature of the broadcast. "More propaganda from the outer colonies," he scoffed. "Trying to manipulate us with—" His words died as the camera focused on a lone figure moving through the devastated landscape. The being wore no recognizable uniform, carried weapons of unfamiliar design, and moved with a fluid grace that seemed to defy the chaos surrounding them. Delegate Corfi leaned forward, her compound eyes analyzing the figure's movements. The gait pattern, the skeletal structure. "That's impossible." The footage showed massive creatures emerging from the shadows, the same unknown hostiles that had been decimating their forces. They moved in perfect coordination, each standing 3 meters tall with armored carapaces that deflected standard plasma weapons. Dozens of them converged on the research station, their advance seemingly unstoppable. But the lone figure didn't retreat. Instead, They began setting charges with methodical precision, using the station's own structure as a weapon. The camera captured impossible tactics, luring groups of enemies into carefully prepared kill zones, using their own momentum against them, turning their coordinated strength into a weakness. "No AI could calculate those variables," whispered Chief Strategist Valders, his cybernetic implants flickering as he tried to process what he was witnessing. The chaos theory implications alone, ... The figure moved like liquid death, adapting to each new threat with split-second decisions that defied conventional military doctrine. When conventional weapons failed, they improvised. When outnumbered, they used terrain. When cornered, they turned the trap into an advantage. Ambassador Zephyr's aide tugged at his robes. "Sir, the biosignature analysis is complete. You need to see this." Zephyr glanced at the data tablet, and his purple skin paled to a sickly lavender. The genetic markers were unmistakable, despite the fact that no human should have been anywhere near the war zone. "Impossible," he breathed. "They're all confined to Earth. We have monitoring stations. We have containment protocols." On screen, the human soldier continued their impossible defense, buying time for something or someone. The camera caught glimpses of evacuation pods launching from the station's lower levels, carrying civilian researchers to safety while the lone guardian held the line. "Chancellor," Vexstar's voice cut through the stunned silence. "How long has this being been out there? How did they reach that outpost?" The footage continued playing, showing the humans' final gambit. They'd rigged the station's fusion reactor, turning the entire facility into a massive explosive device. But the detonation would require manual activation from the reactor core suicide mission. The chamber watched in horrified fascination as the human began their final approach, pursued by dozens of the alien attackers. Each step was calculated, each movement purposeful, leading the enemy exactly where they needed them to be. Ambassador Zephyr found his voice again, though it trembled with uncertainty. "This changes nothing. One human, one station. An anomaly." But even as he spoke, more screens activated around the chamber, showing similar footage from other lost outposts. Each one showed the same impossible sight lone human figures making last stands, protecting evacuees, dying to save species that had cast them out. The impossible truth. The secondary screens filled the chamber with impossible scenes. Human soldiers emerging from shadows across 17 different star systems, always alone, always appearing when hope seemed lost. The delegates sat in stunned silence as the evidence mounted humanity had never truly been contained. Captain Morris of the 3rd Independent Regiment appeared on one screen, using salvaged Corthony weaponry to create a defensive perimeter around an orphanage on Kepler Prime. The timestamp showed this had occurred just hours after the initial invasion. Yet no human vessels had been detected in that sector for decades. Another feed showed Lieutenant Jessica Kane dragging wounded Zephyrian civilians through the rubble of their capital city, her makeshift medical supplies keeping them alive long enough for evacuation. The camera caught her whispering words of comfort in perfect Zephyrian dialect, language that shouldn't exist in human databases. Ambassador Zephyr's hands shook as he scrolled through intelligence reports on his personal tablet. The monitoring stations around Earth ... They're still active, still showing humans contained to their home system. How is this possible? Delegate Corthai's compound eyes had gone dark with realization. The surveillance data has been falsified. For decades, we've been watching fabricated feeds while they've been... what? Living among us? Chancellor Vexstar activated his emergency communication array. All sector commanders, immediate status report on human containment protocols. Responses came back within minutes, each one identical and terrifying. Containment protocols active. No human activity detected outside designated zones. Yet the footage continued playing, showing humans fighting and dying across the galaxy. Chief Strategist Valdris's cybernetic implants sparked as he processed the implications. The level of technological sophistication required to maintain this. Deception. They've been operating completely outside our detection grid. Their advancement curve didn't stop when we isolated them. It accelerated. On the main screen, Sergeant William Cross made his final stand at the Proxima mining colony. Surrounded by the alien horde, he jury-rigged the mining equipment into a devastating weapon system. His last transmission crackled through the chamber's speakers. Colony evacuated. Estimate 47 civilian vessels clear. Beginning final protocol. The explosion that followed vaporized 3 square kilometers of hostile forces, allowing the evacuation fleet to escape to safety. Ambassador Zephyr stood abruptly, his carefully maintained composure finally cracking. This is impossible. We voted unanimously. The human man was absolute. They were contained, monitored, neutralized as a threat. Were they? Chancellor Vextar's ancient voice carried new weight. Or did we simply tell ourselves that while they disappeared into the shadows, watching, protecting, dying for species that cast them out? The footage shifted to show a human woman commander, Rachel Stone, defending a Velari nursery ship from attack. Her vessel bore no identification, no registry codes, no official markings. As hostile forces closed in, she rammed her ship directly into the enemy formation, buying the nursery ship precious seconds to jump to hyperspace. Thousands of Velari children had survived because of her sacrifice. Ambassador Zephyr collapsed into his chair, staring at the screen. Those children included his own niece and nephew, aboard that very nursery ship. A human had died to save his family, and he'd never known. The unauthorized transmission continued, showing scene after scene of human sacrifice across the war zone. Each one revealed the same pattern. Humans appearing from nowhere, fighting impossible odds, choosing death over retreat. And in every case, they'd saved lives of the very species that had banished them from the stars. The final transmission. Main screen flickered, switching to live footage from Outpost Meridian, humanity's original first contact station that had been abandoned during the exile. The camera showed a lone figure in patched armor standing before a makeshift communications array, their face hidden by a worn helmet marked with the old Earth Defense Force insignia. Ambassador Zephyr leaned forward despite himself. This wasn't archived footage. This was happening now. The figure began to speak, their voice carrying across the silent chamber with startling clarity. My name is Colonel Marcus Webb, 5th Ghost Battalion, Earth Expeditionary Force. I am broadcasting on all council frequencies because you need to understand what's coming. Chancellor Vextar activated his security protocols, but the transmission couldn't be blocked or traced. Whoever this human was, their technology far exceeded current council capabilities. 47 years ago, you voted to exile humanity from galactic affairs. Webb continued, removing his helmet to reveal weathered features and eyes that had seen too much. You feared our unpredictability, our aggression, our rapid advancement. You weren't wrong to be afraid. We were changing faster than any species in recorded history. The camera panned across the abandoned outpost, showing makeshift workshops, where advanced technology had been cobbled together from salvaged parts. But you made one critical error in your calculations. You assumed that exile meant abandonment. You thought that isolation would contain us. Delegate Corthai's tentacles writhed with nervous energy. The containment protocols showed exactly what we wanted you to see. Webb interrupted, somehow hearing her across the impossible transmission. We've been watching your feeds, learning your languages, studying your cultures. Every signal you sent to monitor Earth was intercepted, analyzed, and fed back to you with carefully crafted lies. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. Their most secure monitoring systems had been compromised for nearly half a century. Why? Chancellor Vextar's voice cracked with age and confusion. If you possessed such capabilities, why not reveal yourselves? Why not demand representation? Webb's expression softened slightly. Because you were right about one thing: we are dangerous. Our capacity for violence, for adaptation, for turning any situation into a weapon. It terrifies even us sometimes. But you never understood that our greatest strength isn't our aggression. The camera pulled back to show dozens of graves behind the outpost, each marked with names from different species: Corthony, Zephyrian, Valari, and others. Our greatest strength is that we choose who to protect. And despite your exile, despite your fear, despite your rejection, we chose to protect you. Ambassador Zephyr found his voice, though it emerged as barely a whisper. The ghost sightings in border systems. The unexplained equipment failures in hostile territories... The impossible rescues. Every shadow that saved your people. Every system that mysteriously survived overwhelming odds. Every evacuation that succeeded against all logic. That was us, Webb confirmed. We've been your guardians for 4 decades, bleeding and dying in the dark so you could sleep safely in the light. The transmission began to break up as explosions echoed in the background. The unknown enemy had found this outpost too. The creatures you're fighting now, Webb said urgently. They're called the Devourers. They consume entire civilizations, leaving nothing but silence. We've been studying them, preparing for them, fighting them in the deep void where no one else dared to go. His image flickered as the outpost shook under attack. We can stop them, but not from the shadows anymore. The time for hiding is over. The transmission cut to static, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. The reckoning, the silence, stretched for long minutes before Chancellor Vextar finally spoke. All in favor of immediately rescinding the human ban and extending full diplomatic recognition to Earth... His voice carried the weight of history. Signify now. Every appendage, tentacle, and limb in the chamber rose in unanimous agreement. Even Ambassador Zephyr, tears streaming down his purple cheeks, raised his trembling hand. Motion carried, Vextar announced. May the cosmos forgive. Use for what we've done. The main screen activated again, showing a new transmission from Earth's actual surface, not the fabricated feeds they'd been receiving for decades. The blue world appeared different somehow, covered in orbital platforms and defensive installations. That shouldn't have existed. A woman in a crisp military uniform appeared on screen. This is Admiral Jennifer Hayes, Earth Defense Command. We've been monitoring your session. Her expression was stern, but not unkind. We accept your recognition, but understand this: we're not the same species you exiled 47 years ago. Behind her, the camera showed glimpses of impossible technology. Ships that bent space around them, weapons that tore holes in reality, soldiers enhanced beyond recognition. Humanity hadn't just survived their exile, they'd evolved. The Devourers aren't your only threat, Hayes continued. They're scouts for something much worse. The Silencer Force that has consumed galaxies beyond counting. They're coming, and when they arrive, every species in known space will face extinction. Ambassador Zephyr stood on shaking legs. What... What do you need from us? Hayes' expression softened slightly. Nothing. You cast us out when we might have been allies. But we swore an oath long ago to protect those who cannot protect themselves, even those who hurt us. The screen split, showing human fleets emerging from hidden bases across the galaxy. Ships that had been invisible to all sensors suddenly appeared in every threatened system, their advanced technology far beyond anything the Council possessed. Colonel Webb and the others who died buying you time, Hayes said quietly. They believed that redemption was possible. That fear could give way to understanding. I hope they were right. The Devourer's next wave hit 3 hours later, a massive assault that should have broken the remaining Council forces. Instead, they met something unprecedented. Human tactics merged with alien technology. Human adaptability enhanced by decades of studying every species in the galaxy. The tide of war turned in a single day. But as ambassador, Zephyr watched human soldiers fighting alongside the same Velari troops he commanded. He realized the true scope of what had been lost. 47 years of cooperation, of shared growth, of friendship it might have been. They could have conquered us all, he whispered to his aide. With this technology, this strategic advantage, they could have taken everything. His aide nodded, watching as a human medic treated wounded Velari soldiers with gentle efficiency. Instead, they chose to save us. Even after everything we did, the war against the Devourers would continue for months, but humanity's emergence from the shadows had changed everything. They fought not as conquerors returning for vengeance, but as the guardians they'd always been protecting a galaxy that had rejected them, dying for species that had feared them. In the end, Ambassador Zephyr's final report to the Velari High Command contained only one sentence. We banned the wrong species.